Hey YouTube, it's Dr. J, the Midlife Writer, and the observation I am going to be talking to you about today is South Korean standards of beauty. So, this is a topic that I did have some concerns about when I was getting ready to move to South Korea because I had saw a lot of videos and blogs that people had posted about kind of the pressure that was on that South Korean standard of beauty. And first, I want to say that whenever somebody talks about their experience in a place or a space, I am always going to believe them. So when somebody says that there was a lot of pressure for them to try to obtain an unobtainable standard of beauty, I believe them. I've had experiences where something has happened to me, and folks are like, I don't think that's true. That wasn't my reality. Are you sure somebody told you you were in a clan and were happy about it? And I'm like, yeah. And so I know what it's like to have an experience that might be different than other people. And that doesn't mean it's not true. This is just because it's different. And so I respect that. And I totally believe it when somebody says that they were made to feel uncomfortable because of how far they were from that traditional standard of beauty in South Korea. So let's talk about terms. When I talk about standard of beauty, I mean what is the expectation of the pinnacle of what defines beautiful within a country. And so in the United States, kind of that pinnacle of what is considered beautiful tends to be that blonde hair, blue eyes, Caucasian color skin, um, and very thin, and yet 6 feet tall, right? And so South Korea also has a standard of beauty that is a more South Korean look, right? And for me, as a Black American, both of those standards of beauty would be completely unattainable for me for a number of reasons, not to, not just genetics, right? And so um, I am used to dwelling in a space where the standard of beauty is something that would not even be on your, like, that it would be impossible to even attempt to achieve that standard of beauty. One of the things that I think has been a part of that conversation, or has been my experience with that conversation, is that while that standard of beauty does exist, there is not an expectation that you meet that standard of beauty in order to be treated with kindness in the society. And so that has been my experience here in South Korea. I'm not saying that they don't have a standard of beauty, and I'm not saying that I'm not very far away from that standard of beauty, but I have never felt an expectation to actually obtain or attempt to obtain that standard of beauty. Another thing that is true from my observations in South Korea is that there is a expectation that you do present yourself in public in the best light. And so that's, you want to, be put together, you want to look neat, you want to look clean, all of those things, right? Now, what that respectability looks like, I think, is maybe is changing over time because I have not seen it to be like there is a standard for what that respectability of in appearance means. So first, I want to clarify that United States has a respectability of appearance as well. And so, look, I was on Twitter for the great bonnet wars discussion on if you could wear a bonnet in the airport or not. So, like, literally, the respectability of appearance is not something that is specific to South Korea. We see it a lot in the United States as well. What I would say is that since I've been in South Korea, I have not felt that I have been outside the norms of what would be considered respectable in appearance. And that includes the fact that I don't wear makeup. I wore makeup, on my wedding day, but I generally don't wear makeup outside of that. When I went on my first date with my husband, I didn't wear makeup because I was like, look, if you don't like the way it looks all natural, then this is not a relationship that we need to be trying to get into. And so I just, don't wear makeup, and nobody has, pointed and laughed or nobody's been rude to me because I'm not wearing makeup, even though most women wear makeup in South Korea. Most women wear makeup in the United States, but nobody's made me feel uncomfortable about the fact that I don't wear makeup. So, um, another thing I think that can make you feel uncomfortable, right, is if you are shopping and you go to the store and literally nothing fits you. And so that was something that I had a concern about when it was time for us to move to South Korea, because I had heard a lot of people talking about, oh, the clothes don't fit, everything is so small. And so I was under the impression that I was going to come and like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to fit anything and I'm going to feel, really big. And so I was worried about that. And that has not been my lived experience, but I think there's a reason why. Okay. So I am short by United States standards. So I'm 5 feet tall. And in the United States, that's very short. I'm that person in the grocery store who has to go up to strangers and, can you reach that for me? Because it's on a high shelf and I can't get it. In South Korea, even though I'm still 5 feet tall, I am rarely the shortest person in a space. Whereas in the United States, I was oftentimes the shortest person in a space. I am, when I'm out and about, I am about the same height as most women that I encounter. They might be 1 or 2 inches taller than me. I've been in spaces where there were people who were a couple or more inches shorter than me. And so I feel more, and my lived experience here is more feeling like more of an average height. Whereas in the United States, I'm more short. So I can imagine that if you come to South Korea and you're 5'8" or 5'9" as a woman in the United States, you are more of an average height where clothes kind of fit you, right? Whereas if you come to South Korea, it might be a little bit harder to find things that fit you. So for me, when I'm in the United States, I have to look for things that are made in a petite size. Whereas in South Korea, I can just grab stuff off the rack. One of the conversations that would come with that from people when I was watching videos was that people were also very thin. So in my experience, I think most people in South Korea are beautiful. I think most people in the United States are beautiful. I mean, I think the human, like, if you're surviving the human lived experience, that is resiliency. And for me, resiliency is beautiful, right? And so people are beautiful here. And that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes. And so I am rarely in the space where I'm the biggest person in the room. I am rarely in the space where I'm the smallest person in the room, right? And so in the United States, 5 feet tall, I tend to wear, when clothes are our size, small, medium, large, I tend to wear a medium. And sometimes in pants, if I want a little more room, I might wear a large. But when I'm buying jeans, I'm probably gonna wear a 10 just to make sure I have a little bit more room. And so that's my sizing in the United States. So if I'm gonna grab a dress off the shelf, I'm gonna get a medium. I recently bought a dress off the shelf here in Korea. I grabbed a medium. I left with a medium. The medium fit. So I haven't seen a big discrepancy in sizing for me since I moved to South Korea. I would, if I grab a pair of pants, I might just grab a large, because in the United States, I might just grab a large because I like a little bit more room in my pants. So there you go. And when it comes to small, like, are there people who are more thin in South Korea? Yes. However, we were just at the mall the other day getting some pants for my 15-year-old son, and he is on the thin side. He's about 5'5", 5'6", but he is thin. And we went into several stores, and they didn't have any pants that would fit him because his waist was smaller than the smallest waist size they had in the store. Now, we were able to go into a couple of stores, and we were able to get him a couple of pairs of pants because he's working in an office environment. So, he needed, more professional pants. So we were able to go into a couple of stores and buy him some pants. But that took some doing because for most stores, they did not have a waist size small enough to fit him. And so the idea that South Korean thin is different or more thin than American thin, that hasn't been our lived experience because my very American, African American teenage son, who is thin, he is also thin here in South Korea, and so not all of the smallest waist sizes that were available in entire stores was small enough to fit his waist. So I have not seen well, there's, just because you're thin in the United States doesn't mean you're going to be thin in South Korea. Like, that has not been our lived experience. And when it comes to, you know, looks, right? I am a loose natural, and so it's monsoon season. So even if my hair, starts out, blow dried or flat iron, it is not, as the day goes on, it's going to get thicker and thicker and thicker, and that's not a problem. That's not an issue. Nobody has looked at me and said, "Oh no, your hair is not okay," or "That's not acceptable." It's not an issue, and it's not just about, oh, I straightened my hair so I'm accepted. My son that's here full time, who's not in college, he's locked, and no one has said anything negative about his hair. In fact, he's gotten compliments. Somebody came up to him, when we were out the other day, telling him how beautiful his locks were, and they were not American. And he like, I have black hair. My husband's hair, especially when he was younger, was like more like that kind of reddish blondish hair, with black. And so my son inherited both of our hair, so it kind of looks like his locks are dyed or colored, because there's so many different, like, beautiful colors in his hair. But that's, his natural hair, so his locks are beautiful. And so he did, like, somebody literally walked up to him, when we were out, and like, your hair is gorgeous. And so, yeah, his locks are like down his back. My daughter is also natural. She wears her hair mostly in braids. And again, never felt out of place, never felt like she didn't fit in. There were shops, more than one shop around, where she could buy hair. We can get hair for her to get her hair braided. And it's not an issue finding hair that not only matches her hair color, because she also has a little bit of that reddish blonde black hair, as well as texture to fit her, so that she can get her hair braided. My husband has facial hair, a mustache, and beard, and even though most men in South Korea are shaved, he has never felt uncomfortable, never felt out of place. People still interact with him even though he has facial hair. My oldest son, he's 17, so he has a thin mustache. And when he's here, not in college or not working, and he's here, he's, welcome in spaces. Nobody's, doesn't welcome him into a space or anything like that. So nobody's had an issue with us being ourselves and being who we are. When I see people out and about in South Korea, yes, if I go into an office setting, the people are going to be dressed professionally. However, when I'm out and about, whether that's in the mall, in the store, in a restaurant, or just kind of visiting a park or something like that, people are dressed the entire spectrum. So there might be some people in business suits. There might be some people in casual pants, khakis and a shirt, all the way through jeans and t-shirts and shorts and everything else. And so just like people dress all kind of ways in the United States, people dress all kind of ways in South Korea. I don't know if maybe it's, something that's changing. What is normal is changing. I'm not sure. But from my observed experience, people dress all kinds of ways. It's not like everybody dresses this way. Everybody looks like this. That hasn't been my experience. And I've been not just in Seoul. I've been in other cities. I don't live in Seoul. And even though I go to Seoul, often, I've also been to Jeju Island. And, so I've been, in several places throughout South Korea. And I see people dressed in all different ways. When I go to the mall, they're selling all kinds of clothes. And so it's not this idea that everybody looks a certain way. And if you look a different way, they're going to judge you harshly. That hasn't been my experience. The vast majority of the clothes that I wear here in South Korea, they came from so they came from the United States, and so my fashion in the United States has not been an issue. Now, let me just say, my shirt, although it is my theme for today, this is not a shirt that I will wear out in South Korea because, you know, at the bottom it has a little bit of a, you know, not nicey word on it. And so can wear this shirt in my home, but I wouldn't wear this shirt out. This shirt came with me from the United States. When I was in the United States, I would wear this shirt in my home, but I wouldn't necessarily wear this shirt out because, you know, I wear, you know, naughty words or what some people consider naughty words. I might not wear that out because, you know, I don't need to, right? And so that's a little bit, you know, different. So I'm not saying that you would necessarily wear a shirt out that has like derogatory terms or anything like that. Or I don't really have shirts that have derogatory terms, but you know, if it's, you know, a little bit sassy, I might wear some sassy shirts in my home, but that doesn't necessarily mean I will wear a sassy shirt really out and about. So there's that. Another thing that I think will kind of help people a little bit with that transition, and if you want to, you know, thinking about coming to South Korea or how would your experience be, is that even if you can't buy all of your clothes off the shelf, the tailors in South Korea are amazing and custom clothing is affordable. Now, I am not saying custom clothing is cheap. I am saying that in the United States, if you were going to buy kind of a higher end outfit in the United States, you can probably get something custom made at that same price in South Korea. And so, like my husband, he's already gotten, you know, a few custom suits made for him. So instead of having to buy a suit off the shelf, he got suits that were tailor made for his body in particular. I am about to get some custom clothing made specifically for me, and it is going to cost, it's costing the equivalent of if I were going to buy a nicer name brand suit or outfit from the United States. And so, hey, if you can't buy anything off the shelf, you can get your stuff made here in South Korea, and it will fit your body because it will be made specifically for you. Like literally in the custom suits that my husband got made, like they stitched his name into his suit, in the inside of his suit jacket. So it is made for you and for your body. So that's a little bit of a different experience because in the United States, I didn't even look to see how much it would be to get something custom made because I could barely afford to get things altered in the United States after I bought them. And here in South Korea, I can actually get a custom designed, you know, clothes and hopefully eventually a whole wardrobe that is designed for my body. And so if you can't find anything right off the shelf, that doesn't mean that you are out of luck. You can just get it made. And so I hope that helps to kind of quell a little bit of the fears or at least give a different perspective when it comes to standards of beauty in South Korea. Yes, there is a standard of beauty. Yes, that standard of beauty is probably going to be unattainable for you if you are African American or if you are American or if you are anybody outside or inside of South Korea, because standards of beauty are universally not attainable. Yes, you are expected to look like you cared when you left the house and put together, but that doesn't mean you have to look a specific way. Me and no makeup and natural hair in the middle of monsoon season and all of its puffiness and going however it wants to go, that's still acceptable. Being out and about, my son with his locks, my daughter with her braids, my husband with his facial hair, all of that is acceptable here in South Korea. I have been able to buy clothing in the same or similar sizes to what I wore in the United States directly off the rack. That may be because I am shorter by US standards. I'm only 5 feet tall, and so I am more of an average height. From my lived experience here in South Korea, average means like half the people are probably taller than me, half the people are probably shorter than me. So But I don't look short here in South Korea, and that may be why I can more so grab things right off the shelf and buy them, as opposed to somebody else from the United States who may be taller and especially significantly taller. And so they may not be able to grab things as readily right off the shelf. And that may be what has fed into some of that, oh, they are really small. That small may be more so height based than weight based, because beauty in Korea definitely comes in every shape and size throughout the spectrum. And just like we see every shape and size in the United States. I am not saying that United States doesn't have people who their thick would run more into the obese category. I have not experienced a lot of people who would be considered obese in the United States. But if you are like me, you got some thick, then that's okay. I'm not a size 2, I'm not a size 4, I'm not a size 6, and I still feel very comfortable and confident in my own skin. I fit in all the seats, whether I've been on airplanes, I've been on buses, I've been on trains in South Korea, and I fit everywhere, my hips included, and they fit everywhere with room to spare, and people are okay with touching too. Like, people, sit real close here. And so, if you, are on your thick, beautiful, and it's more closely aligned with obesity, I can't really say how your experience would be sharing your beautiful self here in South Korea, because that's not my lived experience. And so I can't say that if you would be considered, your beauty comes in a package that would be considered, larger, that would be along the lines of, people would say, okay, you're beautiful, and you also are, larger than average, or you would fall on the obesity spectrum. I don't know how you would feel, because I haven't experienced that, but I have experienced people being larger than me, much larger than me, being out and about, sitting next to me on trains, having a lived experience, and what I am seeing is not that they're being socially ostracized in the moment that I see them. So that's about as much as I can speak on that experience. So I can't say exactly what your lived experience will be, but I can say that for me, being a girl with some hips and butt, that I have not been made to feel like, I don't belong. So I hope that helps. This is Dr. J, the Midlife Writer. Bye-bye.